Hello, hello! Welcome to my first ever Periscope. Hi, Eric! Yay! It's always nice when at least somebody... Oh, I got a heart! Okay, so welcome to my very first Periscope. I apologize if there's any odd noise. My fridge just kicked in, so there's some background noise. And welcome to my tiny, messy kitchen where all of the magic seems to happen. Yeah, I apologize in advance if I'm a little nervous, as it's hard to put yourself on camera and let yourself be seen. But it's always exciting to step outside your comfort zone and get things going. Welcome. Say hi if this is your first time ever on Periscope or first time to my Periscope, just like me. I'd love to hear from you, and today talking all about bone broth. And I've had some broth simmering in a crock pot for a couple of days now, and I woke up this morning and the house smelled like chicken soup, and I knew it was time to do something with it, and I just became inspired. I'm like, I'm gonna do my first Periscope. So yeah, thank you for coming. And apologize, I'm in my workout gear. I went for a walk earlier today, and I have to say that it was, we had a really big night here in Canada yesterday and had a big change of government, and I think it got the energy going, and everybody I encountered on my walk this morning was just like all smiles. It was awesome. So I'm feeling really good today, lots of energy, and I'm ready to start talking about some bone broth. How about you guys? Alrighty, so again, welcome to my tiny, messy kitchen. And so what I got here is my slow cooker. This is what I like to cook my bone broth in, because it's pretty easy. You just sort of chuck everything in there, add some water, and then let it simmer. You kind of just set it and forget it, which is awesome. So I guess we can start off by thinking about, I can ask the question, like, what is bone broth? And how is it any different from, say, chicken stock or beef stock, something that you would get in like a tin or a Tetra Pak at the grocery store? And bone broth, the way that it's a little bit different is that bone broth is, well, they're essentially the same. You throw bones in a stock pot or a slow cooker like this and add water, and chicken stock or beef stock might simmer for a couple of hours, and then you drain it all off and you reserve the water that has the bone flavor, and then you can add it to cooking. And the only difference really is that it's, that stuff gets chucked in a Tetra Pak, and other spices and like sometimes some additives that you're not necessarily wanting get chucked in there as well, and it just seems to be a much more diluted version of this much healthier, much more nutritionally dense bone broth. So what's a little bit different is that bone broth, you want to use really good quality bones. They go into the stock pot or the slow cooker, and then you simmer for a minimum of 12 to 24 to maximum 48 hours. So it's really all about the time and just letting the minerals and all the good stuff inside the bones really come out into the water. And then when you drain off the actual liquid, you're left with an extremely nutrient dense, mineral rich liquid that you can add to cooking, drink on its own, and it's just awesome. It's like an elixir for health. So yeah, some of the other things about bone broth, it has an amazing taste. It's savory and salty, which is amazing, especially now that at least in the northern hemisphere we're coming down into the autumn and the fall time, so we're looking to start hibernating, and so it's nice to have a bit more savory rich foods in our diet, which has been it's just part of that sort of, we're coming down from the high energy of summer into more of a yin, slow, warm hibernation state. So soups and stews and really like roasted and braised meats are really good for autumn and winter, and bone broth can be used in all of those. Or if if you just like it on its own, you can just chuck it in a, put it in a mug and heat it up and just drink it on its own. It's really good. Also, it's fall. We're coming, like I said, out of summer into this kind of colder time of year, and what comes with that is sick. It's the time that we all start to get a little bit sick, which really isn't ideal. And so, it's easy to start to look for ways to naturally boost our immunity and help ward off some of the illnesses that come our way. So, bone broth is a wonderful way to help keep your immune system strong. And what else? So, I mentioned earlier you can use it in soups and stews, but it has a number of culinary uses. I mean, you can add it to gravies. Like I said, you can add it if you're braising or roasting any vegetables and you want to add just a little bit of liquid in your pot or your pan just to keep things nice and moist. Then you can use bone broth for that and add some minerals. You can add it to sauces for flavor. Or like I said, you can just add it in, soups and stews, which are awesome. I love to use it as a base for whether it's chicken noodle soup or like a venison stew. It makes a really good, hearty, nutrient-dense base. So, the health benefits of bone broth. There are so many things that bone broth can do in your body to help you. It really is, like I said, an elixir of health. It is an excellent source of minerals. I mean, your bones and the bones of all animals are made up of a number of minerals, especially calcium. So bone broth essentially is a really good source of calcium along with magnesium and phosphorus. And by soaking it, you're really able to extract those minerals, and it goes into the liquid, and then it's such an easy way for you to consume it and for your body to absorb those minerals. There's far more calcium in bone broth than, say, milk, and it's far less inflammatory. In fact, it's the opposite. It's anti-inflammatory. And so if you have any digestive issues or gut problems, there is a lot of properties with bone broth that can help you heal your digestive system and your gut, which is awesome. Like I said before, bone broth does help boost your immunity, and it can also, it's really, really good. It's really, really good to, for bone and tooth health. So if you have any cavities and you're looking for natural ways to help remineralize your teeth, bone broth is an excellent food to add into your diet to help add extra minerals. Like I said before, it helps improve digestion. Sorry, I just have some notes. This is my first Periscope, so I wanted to be sure that I didn't miss any important information, so please bear with me. It supports joints and hair, skin and nails, and it's really high, has a high collagen content, and all of your nails and your hair and your skin is made up of proteins and collagen. So being able to add more bone broth to your diet and adding more collagen to your diet helps support the healthy growth of your hair and your skin and your nails. And your joints, oh my gosh. So if you have any sort of arthritis or, inflammation in your joints, maybe you're a runner and you run a lot on the pavement and you just have, you can really feel the aches and the creaks, or maybe you're getting a little older like me and, you just don't feel like your youthful self anymore. It's really good to add some bone broth, and it helps, keep your joints lubricated and healthy. Oh, and I guess another thing, it's high in protein. So, if you wanted to, if you were making more of a savory smoothie, perhaps you could add some to a smoothie, or you could just, like I said, have a nice hot cup of bone broth on a cold, misty day this fall or winter. So yeah, a couple other things about bone broth that is super easy to make. And it's also really inexpensive. In fact, you're just using leftover, bones that you might have in your kitchen just from cooking other things. Like, one of my favorite things that I like to do is to go to, you know, pick up like a nice organic roasting chicken, and I'll, you know, just simply, it's like an easy like weeknight meal, and you basically add it to a roasting pan and stuff it maybe with some onions or, you know, spices, salt and pepper, etc., and chuck it in the oven at like 350 for, you know, an hour and a half, and then pull it out, and then you've got like, you know, between the two breasts and the bird and like your the thighs and the wings and the drums and all that, you've got like 2 to 3 days of solid meals and chicken, so which is awesome. But then you have the carcass, all the bones left over. So if you save those bones, just chuck them in a, you know, if you don't want to make bone broth right away, chuck them in like a freezer bag and then pop it in the freezer. And then when you have like maybe 2 or 3, it's the perfect time to make bone broth. So that's what I've been doing. I've been hoarding chicken bones in my freezer, and we had like, I think like 6 or 5 like chicken carcasses. So it was definitely time for me to make a batch of bone broth. So, like I said, very inexpensive. You can also get bones just from your local butcher and ask them, you know, you always want to make sure that your bones are really good quality, and so just double check with them. And you know, your butcher can even, like, if the bones, like say it's a leg bone of a cow, they can actually chop it up into like smaller pieces, which exposes more of the bone and allows the whole simmering process to extract more minerals out of the bone. So so why don't I show you what I've got going on here. So this right here is, I just strained this from my crock pot. This is a nice, see the dark rich color? This is my bone broth, my chicken bone broth that I have been simmering for the past I guess almost 2 full days, almost 48 hours. And all I did for that was added it in my crock pot, added some chopped up vegetables, which I can show you in a minute, and then filtered water. I mean, there's a couple other steps in there which I can walk you through in a sec. So, but basically I'm at the point now where this is done, and I am now straining it from my crock pot into jars so that I can let it cool, let it come to room temperature, and then either store it in the fridge or the freezer. Or what I'm gonna do for the first time, I just bought these silicone cups. They're little muffin liners, but I'm gonna actually use them to freeze bone broth because it's gonna make like a really nice puck. And so when this comes to room temperature, I'll simply fill my silicone cups and then put them in the freezer and let them freeze, and then I'll just pop them out and add them to like a bag and just keep that in my freezer. And so whenever I want to add like an extra, you know, block of chicken flavor or something to, maybe I'm making a sauce or, you know, frying up some chicken, I can just add it straight to the pan. Or a couple of these melted in a mug is, you know, a wonderful hot beverage. So I will just show you, basically in here I just have left the chicken bones that I and a little bit of broth. So I'm actually gonna start a new batch of broth, but I'm gonna leave these chicken bones in the next batch of broth just in case there's any amount of minerals left, and you know, something that we just, you know, got left behind. We want to make sure that we get the full use of the bones. And in fact, I read that that bones and bone broth can be often used for at least 2 times, so, which is awesome. Other things that I find are super helpful, especially when it comes to, you know, straining off your bone broth, because like I added a bunch of onions and celery and carrot to this, and so by the time it's done it's really soft, and I don't want that in here. I just want the pure liquid. And so I like to, you know, pour things into my wide mouth masons, and then I have a fine sieve like this. It's a little wet, and this is a canning funnel. So this is basically, this opening here allows it to fit perfectly inside of my canning jar. And the other thing you can do too is you can also use, if you don't have a fine sieve, you can also use cheesecloth as well. And so basically, I will just, it's super easy. Oh, and a ladle, because I find it's easy to get the liquid out without having to lift this whole hot thing up and try and pour it in. So yeah, it's super simple. It's more or less scoop up some liquid like that, pour it into there. As you can see, it's draining in, and I can just do this with the rest of my liquid. I won't get it all out, but I'll get most of it out. And then I just recommend taking all of the extra scraps, and if you have a food waste, like a green container, then you can just chuck it in there. That's probably good. So I mean, I got quite a bit of bone broth. Let's not chuck that. You know, I got quite a bit of bone broth from this. It's like just over 1.5 liters. And like I said, this is now like still full of all the bones from my previous broth. So for the new batch, there's a couple of things that you want to do just to get started. So I have some really good quality venison bones. I recently was hunting with my family in southeastern British Columbia, and I got my first deer, which was really exciting. And it was the first opportunity I've had to actually see, you know, the full food, like the full process of like literally like animal to butcher to plate. So it's been a really humbling and eye-opening experience. It's really made me appreciate the amount of work that goes into creating like a piece of beautiful protein, animal protein, that you can roast or prepare in any way possible. And because yeah, it's easy to go to the grocery store and just see it in like styrofoam and cellophane and not really think about everything that meat went through before landing in the grocery store. So it's been really amazing. And so from this, I was able to get some, you know, we're at the butcher and we're having the meat prepared and packaged, and we saved all of the bones. So I have like this bag of beautiful, healthy deer bones that I'm going to make into bone broth and going to add to this. So the first thing, I'm just going to turn this. So the first thing that I did, let's see, there's my stove. The first thing that I did was I actually roasted the bones because they were raw. I'll just show you what we've got going here. I first roasted them just with some olive oil, chucked it on a pan, avocado oil, and put it on a pan and roasted it at like 400 in the oven. And then once they're nice and brown, after about 25 minutes, I pulled them out, and then I put them in this pot with just enough water to cover, and about, I would say like maybe like a 1/4 cup of raw apple cider vinegar. And then, maybe it's better if I turn this light on. Is that better? A little bit. So, and then I let that soak for about an hour. And the vinegar actually helps pull out any impurities that are in the bones. And then from there, I actually brought this to a boil and allowed any scum, which is not actually any, it's just fat. So it just allows any scum to come to the surface. It just looks like foam, and then you can simply skim that off. And then that just makes sure that your bones are really clean and your broth is ready to go in the pot. And so now all I'm going to do from this, I'm just going to turn this around again. So all I need to do now is simply bring this over to my pot, and I'm just going to add all of this to, you know what, it's probably a lot simpler, so I can just take this water Add it right to here. Just add all of my bones. Everything, just want to make sure everything's in there and covered, which is awesome. And then it's totally optional, but if you want, you can add chopped vegetables, carrots or celery. I'm just gonna make this a little straighter. Carrots, celery, onions, and you don't have to chop it like super small. You can keep it nice and big and rough. In fact, if you go too small, then it can get really like mushy and more or less dissolve in the soup, since you're gonna let it simmer for a good 48 hours, hopefully, or 12 hours. So nice, rough, chopped vegetables is all you need. I don't have onions. I forgot it, but luckily I'm gonna let this go for 48 hours, so I can, in the next 48 hours, go to the store and buy an onion and just add it to the pot. There we go. Really simple. Now I just simply put this on. I like to secure it because we have animals in our house. Our little foster cats like to run around and they like to get into trouble sometimes. So I don't want them getting into this by accident and hurting themselves. And then you want to set this to the lowest setting possible, because ideally you don't want this to get so hot that it's boiling. You just want it to get to like a really nice gentle simmer, to the point where there might even just be a couple of bubbles. And if that's the case, then, or if you find it's too hot, I'll often just like set my lid askew a little bit, and then it just let some of the heat escape. Yeah, and then that's it. You literally just set it aside for the next couple days. Easy peasy, right? So, yeah, I mean, I have a few other tips for bone broth if you're interested. Like I said, you really want to get bones from healthy animals, so it's also really easy, is just as your family eats throughout the week, and just save bones. And you don't necessarily have to have a whole roast chicken, but if you're doing like chicken thighs with the bone in, just save your bones from your family's meals, and just prevent them from going to food scraps, and chuck them in the freezer instead. And then over time, you'll get enough to make a beautiful batch of broth. If your bones are raw, like I said, like I did with these venison bones, it's a really good idea to roast them until they get a nice brown color, and it just helps draw out the flavor of the bone, as well as I've read that beef bones can actually not taste as good, like the broth won't taste as good if you just add them raw, but roasting seems to mitigate that. You can also add fresh herbs to your broth. I guess in the last, say, like couple hours of simmering, you can add some fresh herbs like cilantro or parsley, and then it just adds extra minerals. Like I did here, you can add vegetables for more flavor, the carrots and the celery. And oh, also, if you find, like I said, tiny messy kitchen. So we are in a very small space, and we have an apartment size freezer, and it's often jam-packed full of stuff. So if you find that you're actually short on freezer space, you can take your bone broth and let it simmer on the stove at a gentle simmer, and just reduce it to half, and it just concentrates. And so then you can store half the amount of broth, and then when you're ready to use it, just bring it, add more water just to dilute it back to its regular strength. Hot tip there. But yeah, that's everything. Oh, actually, I guess the other thing is just, now that I'm done with this, I did mention that I will be freezing it into the little pucks, right? Yeah. And, but other ways to store this actually is, like right now there's a bit of sediment on top. If I wanted to get rid of that, I could strain this again through the cheesecloth, and that would grab it. Otherwise, this might just be fat. And so when this starts to cool to room temperature and the fat starts to solidify, you can just scrape that off. And then a good sign, so what you can do then, you can store this in the fridge for at max, you know, a week, or keep it in the freezer for as long as you need. And yeah, and a really good sign of like a good mineral bone broth is with like lots of collagen in it, is when this actually gets to room temperature or colder in the fridge, it will actually start to coagulate and like get gelatinous, which is really cool. And yeah, so that is a good sign that your bone broth, like you did a really good job in your bone broth. But don't worry if your bone broth doesn't do that. Like, it's still super rich in minerals and has tons of amazing health benefits for you. What else? Oh, some tips, like something that I've tried before is I've gone to help get that gelatinous bone broth is I've gone to the farmer's market, and straight from the chicken people at the farmer's market, they sell bags of chicken feet, and you can add chicken feet, which are really high in collagen, and you can add those and gelatin, and add those to the stock as well, and just let them simmer in there, and it just pulls out that collagen and gelatin and adds it to the broth, and helps increase the likelihood that you'll get that nice gelatinous texture once it's chilled. So yeah, summary again of why bone broth is so amazing and you should be making it tonight. It is extremely easy to make. It's extremely versatile. You can use it in a ton of different culinary ways, or just drink it on its own. It has a great tasty savory taste as well. The health benefits are unreal. So like I said, it's really high in minerals, so if you have any sort of mineral deficiencies, or you're wondering other ways that you can get calcium into your diet, that doesn't include dairy, because not everybody tolerates dairy, or dairy is very inflammatory. It's a really good way to get extra calcium into your diet. Some phosphorus and magnesium. We're all, you know, very magnesium is very important for us, and we're all quite deficient in it. It's an excellent way, it's an excellent food to consume to boost your immune system, especially now that we are in the fall and autumn, colder weather, and you know, everybody starts to, this change of season, people start to get ill more often. It's a really good tonic that you can take to help keep your immune system strong. And it also helps improve digestion, and helps heal and seal the gut. So if you have any digestive issues such as irritable bowel syndrome, or you know, SIBO or anything like that, it's really good to consume on a regular basis, and to help heal and seal the digestive tract. And if you want beautiful hair, skin, and nails, it's also a wonderful way to add extra proteins and collagen to your diet to help keep those features on your sexy body all shiny and growing very healthfully. And it's also rich in protein, so if you're looking for other ways to add clean proteins to your diet, and it's an awesome way to just add a couple extra proteins into your daily diet. So that's it. That was my first scope. If you enjoyed that, please feel free to tap, 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 tap. Send me some hearts. I will be, I'm gonna figure out a way to get this Periscope onto, oh, great hearts, thank you. I'm gonna figure out a way to get this Periscope captured and then onto my blog, and where I can summarize all of this, include recipes for bone broth and tips on how to how to make it in your kitchen, nice and simple. And my blog, that's right, my blog. So I'm actually in the process of launching my website. It's been a labor of love. So I'm hoping by the end of the month it will be up and ready, and that's where you can find me, the capture of this Periscope, and my nutritional services offerings, and oh my gosh, I never even introduced myself. See, this is why it's been my first Periscope. I'm gonna have to make notes of like all the things that I didn't do properly. So anyways, this is my blog, Allie Lewis. Oh, of course it's backwards because AllieLewis.com. And the website will be going live hopefully by the end of the month. And, oh, look at my terrible manicure. I clearly need to take that off today. And, yeah, I mean, if you pop over there now, there's a place where you can sign up to become notified of when the site goes live. So that'd be awesome. Yep, so signing off, I am Allie Lewis. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, and feel free to visit me at allielewis.com and yeah, and see if you have any nutritional questions or questions about bone broth. Feel free to contact me over there. Thank you so much, and woo, first Periscope. Yeah, alrighty. I hope you have an awesome day. Get out and enjoy some sunshine from wherever you are, and enjoy a nice, warm, nourishing mug of bone broth. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.